The very first movement we're going to do is an isometric for hip flexion. So you're going to slowly start to drive down into the box, ramping up to your maximal effort, and you can hold that for 5 to 10 seconds. Then you're going to reverse that and begin to try and lift off the box, but you should be at end range, so you shouldn't be able to lift at this point. This is going to give you strength at that end range. The very next movement we're going to do is a lift off. So trying to lift off of a elevated position, you're going to take yourself close to end range and then begin to lift off. What we're doing here is we're trying to capture a range of motion. So we're trying to see how much drive, neural drive, can you create to lift off, and how much can you achieve? How much can you control? We can also then take ourselves to a new position, a higher position, and we can achieve more neural drive by putting ourselves closer to our end range as a starting position. You can see in this movement, I'm trying my best not to actually rock or move in any other direction. I'm just trying to get as much hip flexion as I can out of my hip. Those were two ways in which we can use the standing position to get hip flexion, or to learn to control our hip flexion. I'm going to show you another way in which we can capture range of motion using hip flexion, but this time we're going to do it from a straight leg position. In this position here, we're in a straight leg hip flexion, so we're going to close the angle and try and squeeze our abdomen to our thighs, or squeeze our thighs to our abdomen. We're going to push back, trying to bring the legs with us into a pike, and then gradually lower our legs down. This effort, we're trying to capture our range of motion, so it's really intense, high neurological drive as we try and maintain that end range of motion. So that was a move where we take ourselves to our end range of motion and we see how much flexibility we have. And then we're trying to ask ourselves, well, how much control do I have? Do I have control of that range of motion? What you'll see sometimes with some people is that they can't keep the abdomen and thighs close together. And so what will happen is, as they push away and they back off, they might lose the contraction as they push away. For those people who have control of that range of motion, most of the time they're able to keep that contraction, and as they push back and away, they're able to maintain that contraction and bring the legs with them a lot easier. So that's just a way in which we can capture range of motion. In this next video, what I'm going to show you is a way in which we can kind of play at in range of motion. So we're going to spend some time in that position, and these are going to be some in range rotations. In this movement here, I'm going to hug the knee, and then I'm going to lift into hip flexion. I'm going to start creating circles. Now you can change the speed at which you do this circle, which will change the level of intensity of it. It will also change the amount of time under tension. You can point the toe away, which will give you a little bit more intense of a movement. And you can also switch directions of the movement as well. When we think about hip motion, we should understand that rotation is the fundamental movement of the joint. So moving in rotation is going to provide inputs to the tissues. And when we move around in rotation at that end point, what we're doing is we're getting all the tissues that would be involved, the variety of the tissues across the joint, to be able to contract or be able to control and be able to strengthen themselves as you move through that rotation. The next movement that I'm going to show you is a hover. In the hover, we're just going to move from one position to another position. This is going to affect different tissues across the joint as we move from one position to another. Hovers are just a simple way to move through our ranges of motion. So in hip flexion here, I'm moving through my ranges of hip flexion and abduction, so the overlapping degrees of freedom. Here, what I'm doing is I'm increasing the intensity a little bit by giving myself a block to go over. Now, I can clear that block pretty easily, so that's pretty simple for me. But what we can do is we can change the height of the block, which will then give us another metric to utilize. We can change the position of the block as well, so I can move it further out, which would challenge my end range of hip flexion and abduction. Or I can use the final height of the block, or I can stack a bunch more blocks on top of each other. And as you can see, the intensity goes up as the block gets higher and I have to clear more space.